What if I told you that for over 1,500 years, one of humanity's greatest civilizations was completely silent? That the secrets of ancient Egypt, their knowledge, their stories, their wisdom, were locked away behind mysterious symbols that no one on earth could read. In 1799, a French soldier digging a fort in the Egyptian desert struck something with his shovel. That single strike would unlock 3,000 years of lost history and reveal secrets that had been buried since the fall of the pharaohs. If you're fascinated by archaeological mysteries and the secrets hidden in ancient civilizations, you need to subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. Because today we're uncovering the story of the most important piece of rock in human history. Welcome back to Veil of History, where we explore the darkest corners of history and uncover the secrets they don't teach you in school. Today we're diving deep into the mystery of the Rosetta Stone, a discovery so significant that it literally brought an entire civilization back from the dead. But before we begin, I want you to imagine something and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Imagine if tomorrow, every book, every document, every piece of writing in your language became unreadable. All human knowledge locked away behind symbols no one could decipher. That's exactly what happened to ancient Egypt for over a millennium. The stone we're about to discuss didn't just help scholars read hieroglyphs. It revealed secrets about ancient Egyptian magic, hidden political conspiracies, and knowledge that some believe was deliberately buried by early Christians who saw it as a threat to their growing religion. So let's journey back to that fateful day in July 1799, when Napoleon's army was about to accidentally discover the key to humanity's greatest loss: language. Picture this: July 1799, the small town of Rosetta in the Nile Delta. Napoleon Bonaparte has invaded Egypt with grand dreams of following in Alexander the Great's footsteps, but his army is struggling against British naval power and desert warfare. Lieutenant Pierre-François Bouchard and his men are working to strengthen the defenses of Fort Julien, an ancient fort overlooking the Nile. The work is backbreaking, digging foundations under the scorching Egyptian sun, hauling stones, reinforcing walls against potential British attack. Then, as Bouchard's shovel strikes the ground near an old wall, he hits something solid. Not just another rock, but something different, something carved. As his men help him excavate, they uncover a large, dark stone covered in ancient writing. But here's what makes this discovery extraordinary. Bouchard wasn't just any soldier. He was one of the scholars Napoleon had brought with him, part of the Commission des Sciences et des Arts. Napoleon understood that conquering Egypt wasn't just about military victory. It was about unlocking the secrets of one of history's greatest civilizations. When Bouchard examined the stone more closely, he realized he was looking at something unprecedented. The stone contained 3 different scripts, Greek at the bottom, which he could read, and 2 forms of Egyptian writing above it that no one had been able to decipher for over 1,400 years. Think about this moment. For the first time since the 4th century CE, someone was holding a potential key to reading ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Greek text mentioned priests of Memphis and seemed to be some kind of royal decree. But what secrets lay hidden in the mysterious symbols above? Recognizing its potential importance, the stone was immediately transported to Cairo, where Napoleon's team of scholars, the savants, began their initial studies. These weren't just random academics. Napoleon had assembled some of Europe's finest minds: linguists, archaeologists, historians, mathematicians. The scholars quickly realized they were looking at the same text written in 3 different scripts. The Greek was readable and appeared to be a royal decree from 196 BCE praising the pharaoh Ptolemy V. But the real treasure lay in the Egyptian scripts above. If they could crack the code, they might finally unlock the secrets of the pharaohs. But here's where our story takes a dark turn that most people don't know about. As news of the discovery spread through scholarly circles in Europe, it ignited not just academic interest, but a fierce international competition. Nations began to see ancient Egyptian knowledge as a source of power, political, cultural, and potentially even technological. I want you to think about this and share in the comments. Why do you think European powers were so desperate to unlock Egyptian secrets? Was it purely academic curiosity, or were they hoping to discover something more: lost technologies, hidden wealth, or knowledge that could give them advantages over their rivals? Because what happened next would turn the Rosetta Stone from an archaeological curiosity into the center of an international conspiracy that would span decades and involve some of history's most brilliant and ruthless minds. To understand why the Rosetta Stone was so revolutionary, you need to understand the magnitude of what had been lost when hieroglyphic writing disappeared. For over 1,400 years, hieroglyphs had been completely unreadable. The last known hieroglyphic inscription was carved in 394 CE at the Temple of Philae. After that, silence. An entire civilization's written legacy, their literature, their science, their religious beliefs, their history, all locked away behind mysterious symbols. The Rosetta Stone contained the same decree written in 3 different scripts. The bottom section was in ancient Greek, readable to any educated European scholar of the time. This was the key that would unlock everything else. The middle section was in Demotic, a cursive form of Egyptian writing that was used for everyday documents. This had been Egypt's common writing system during the later periods of Egyptian civilization. The top section was in hieroglyphs, the sacred writing system of ancient Egypt, used for monumental inscriptions and religious texts. This was the holy grail that scholars had been trying to crack for centuries. But what did the stone actually say? The text was a decree issued in 196 BCE by a council of priests honoring the 13-year-old pharaoh Ptolemy V Epiphanes. It praised his generosity to temples, his tax reductions, and his amnesty for prisoners. That on the surface, it seemed like routine royal propaganda. But scholars quickly realized this seemingly mundane decree contained explosive historical information. It revealed details about Egyptian taxation systems. It showed how the Ptolemaic dynasty used religious institutions to maintain power. It provided insights into the relationship between Greek rulers and Egyptian priests. Most importantly, it offered a direct translation key between Greek and Egyptian scripts. Several scholars immediately began working on decipherment. The Swedish diplomat Johann David Akerblad made early progress with the Demotic script in 1802, successfully identifying several names and words. The British polymath Thomas Young made crucial discoveries around 1814 to 1819, proving that hieroglyphs could represent sounds, not just concepts, and correctly identifying the cartouches, oval shapes, as containing royal names. But there was pressure beyond academic curiosity. By 1815, the stone had been seized by British forces and was housed in the British Museum. French scholars who had made the discovery were furious. This created an international race to crack the code. Whoever succeeded would claim credit for unlocking Egyptian civilization. What made hieroglyphic writing so difficult to crack was its complexity. Unlike alphabetic writing systems, hieroglyphs operated on multiple levels. Some symbols represented sounds, like letters. Some represented entire words or concepts. Some were determinatives that clarified meaning. The same symbol could have different meanings in different contexts. Text could be written left to right to left, or top to bottom. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source, not from the Rosetta Stone itself, but from an obsessive French linguist who would spend over 20 years of his life consumed by Egyptian hieroglyphs. But this man's story is darker than most people realize. His obsession with Egyptian writing would nearly destroy his health, ruin his relationships, and drive him to the edge of madness. Yet his sacrifice would finally give voice to a civilization that had been silent for over a millennium. Before we reveal who cracked the code and how, I want you to consider this question, and please share your thoughts in the comments. How far would you go to unlock a mystery that had puzzled humanity for over 1,000 years? Would you sacrifice your health, your relationships, even your sanity for the chance to be remembered as the person who brought an entire civilization back to life? His name was Jean-François Champollion, and his story reads like a Gothic novel of obsession, genius, and ultimate triumph over impossible odds. Born in 1790, in the small French town of Figeac, Champollion showed extraordinary linguistic abilities from childhood. By age 13, he was studying Arabic, Hebrew, and Chaldean. By 16, he had taught himself Coptic, the last surviving form of the ancient Egyptian language, in 1807. At age 17, Champollion encountered his first Egyptian hieroglyphs and became utterly obsessed. He declared to his brother, "I want to make such a thorough study of this ancient nation that the dreams of Europeans can be compared with reality." What followed were 15 years of grueling, obsessive work that nearly destroyed him. Champollion spent 12 to 16 hours daily studying Egyptian texts, comparing inscriptions, analyzing symbols. He filled thousands of pages with notes, theories, failed attempts at decipherment. The obsession consumed his life. His health deteriorated from endless hours hunched over texts. He suffered from severe depression and anxiety. His relationships crumbled under the weight of his singular focus. He lived in poverty. Unable to hold steady employment, political troubles, he supported Napoleon, forced him into hiding. Unlike his predecessors, Champollion took a systematic approach. He studied every available Egyptian text, not just the Rosetta Stone. He analyzed Coptic vocabulary to understand how ancient Egyptian might have sounded. He compared hundreds of cartouches from different monuments. The moment that changed everything happened on September 14, 1822. Champollion was studying cartouches from the temple of Abu Simbel when he realized that hieroglyphs weren't just symbolic. They were phonetic. He had been studying the name Ramesses in hieroglyphs. He knew from Coptic that Ra was the sun god and Mes meant born. So Ramesses meant born of Ra. When he applied this phonetic principle to other cartouches, suddenly the names of dozens of pharaohs became readable. According to legend, Champollion was so excited by his breakthrough that he ran through the streets of Paris to his brother's office, burst through the door shouting "J'etiens mon affaire, I've got it," and immediately collapsed from exhaustion on September 27, 1822. Champollion presented his findings to the Académie Royale des Inscriptions et Belles Lettres in a paper titled Letter to Dacier relative to the alphabet of phonetic hieroglyphs. This wasn't just academic achievement. It was the resurrection of an entire civilization. Suddenly, temple walls began to speak. Royal tombs revealed their secrets. Medical papyri shared ancient healing knowledge. Literary works told stories that had been silent for millennia. But here's what's truly extraordinary about what Champollion unlocked, and why some religious authorities were deeply uncomfortable with his discoveries. The hieroglyphic texts revealed a sophisticated understanding of medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that challenged European assumptions about primitive ancient civilizations. More controversially, the texts contained religious and philosophical ideas that predated, and sometimes contradicted, Christian doctrine. Detailed afterlife beliefs with moral judgment stories of dying and resurrecting gods, advanced theological concepts about the nature of divinity, mathematical and astronomical knowledge that wouldn't be rediscovered in Europe for centuries. Champollion finally achieved his dream of visiting Egypt in 1828, leading the first scientific expedition to systematically document hieroglyphic inscriptions. But the years of obsessive work had destroyed his health. He died in 1832 at age 41, just 10 years after his breakthrough, and those final 10 years, Champollion had single-handedly brought ancient Egypt back to life. His work revealed not just a lost language, but an entire civilization's worth of knowledge, wisdom, and achievements. Think about this incredible story and let me know in the comments. Do you think Champollion's sacrifice was worth it? Should one person dedicate their entire life and ultimately give their life to unlock knowledge for all humanity? And what do you think about the religious and political authorities who tried to suppress some of his more controversial discoveries? But while Champollion was sacrificing his life to unlock Egyptian secrets, a darker story was unfolding behind the scenes. An international conspiracy involving theft, political manipulation, and the deliberate suppression of historical truth. Let's start with an uncomfortable fact. The Rosetta Stone was stolen. Not just discovered, stolen. When Napoleon's forces were defeated by the British in 1801, the Treaty of Alexandria demanded that all Egyptian antiquities collected by French scholars be handed over to Britain. The French scholars were outraged. They had risked their lives, spent years studying these artifacts, and made the discoveries that would unlock Egyptian civilization. Some threatened to throw the antiquities into the sea rather than surrender them to the British. British General Hutchinson used diplomatic pressure and threats to force the handover. The official story was that these artifacts belonged to humanity and would be better preserved in British museums. The reality was more cynical. Britain wanted to claim credit for unlocking Egyptian civilization. When the Rosetta Stone arrived at the British Museum in 1802, it became the centerpiece of their Egyptian collection. But here's what they didn't publicize. British scholars made virtually no progress in deciphering hieroglyphs. The real breakthrough came from Champollion in France, working with copies and drawings. This created an awkward situation. Britain possessed the stone, but France had cracked the code. British scholars, led by Thomas Young, engaged in a bitter priority dispute with Champollion, trying to claim credit for discoveries they hadn't made. The decipherment of hieroglyphs wasn't just academic, it had political implications. European powers used their rescue of Egyptian antiquities to justify continued colonial control. They argued that modern Egyptians couldn't properly preserve or study their own heritage. Some church authorities were concerned about Egyptian religious texts that predated and contradicted Christian teachings. There were attempts to downplay or reinterpret discoveries that challenged biblical chronology. Success in Egyptology became a matter of national pride. Each discovery was claimed for the glory of the discovering nation, regardless of where the actual intellectual work was done. Here's where the story gets really dark. As hieroglyphic texts were translated, some findings were quietly suppressed or downplayed. Egyptian mathematical and astronomical texts showed sophisticated knowledge that challenged European assumptions about the dark ages of human knowledge. Egyptian medical papyri contained surgical procedures and treatments that wouldn't be discovered in Europe for centuries, raising uncomfortable questions about the suppression of ancient knowledge. Egyptian historical records provided chronologies that contradicted biblical dating, creating conflicts between archaeological evidence and religious doctrine. Even today, there are ongoing disputes about Egyptian artifacts. Egypt has repeatedly demanded the return of the Rosetta Stone and other artifacts, arguing they were taken without consent and belong in Egypt. Some scholars argue that major museums restrict access to certain artifacts and texts, controlling which researchers can study the most controversial materials. Millions of tourists see the Rosetta Stone in the British Museum, but few realize the complex political and ethical issues surrounding its possession. modern technology has begun to democratize access to Egyptian texts. High-resolution imaging and digital databases are making previously restricted materials available to scholars worldwide, potentially ending the monopoly that major museums have held for centuries. The battle over the Rosetta Stone continues today. Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, has called it the icon of our Egyptian identity and demanded its return. The British Museum maintains it belongs to World Heritage and should remain in London. But there's a deeper question here about who controls historical narrative. The Rosetta Stone didn't just unlock hieroglyphs. It gave European scholars the power to interpret and present Egyptian civilization to the world. This raises some profound questions I want you to think about and discuss in the comments. Who should control access to humanity's most important historical artifacts? Should the Rosetta Stone be returned to Egypt, or does it belong to all humanity in a British museum? And how many other historical discoveries have been suppressed or controlled for political or religious reasons? Because the final chapter of our story reveals how the Rosetta Stone continues to unlock secrets today, and why some of those secrets are still considered too dangerous to share with the public. The story of the Rosetta Stone didn't end in 1822 when Champollion cracked the code. In fact, modern technology is revealing secrets about the stone itself that are rewriting our understanding of ancient Egypt and raising new questions about what else might be hidden in plain sight. Using advanced imaging techniques, researchers have discovered details on the Rosetta Stone that were invisible to previous generations of scholars. Multispectral imaging has revealed traces of text that had worn away, filling in gaps in our understanding of the original decree. Analysis of the carving techniques has revealed information about the tools and methods used by ancient Egyptian stonemasons, providing insights into their technological capabilities. Microscopic analysis has found traces of pigments, suggesting the stone was originally painted, a fact that changes how we visualize ancient Egyptian monuments. The decipherment of hieroglyphs opened floodgates of discovery that continue today. Egyptian medical texts have revealed surgical procedures, pharmaceutical knowledge, and anatomical understanding that rivals modern medicine in some areas. Engineering texts have shown how the pyramids were built, revealing techniques that modern engineers are still trying to fully understand. Egyptian astronomical texts demonstrate sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, calendar systems, and mathematical concepts. But even today, there are aspects of Egyptian hieroglyphic writing that remain mysterious. Some temple inscriptions use deliberately obscure hieroglyphic combinations that seem designed to hide meaning even from other Egyptians. Recent analysis suggests some hieroglyphic texts contain mathematical relationships and numerical codes that we're only beginning to understand. The deepest temple inscriptions contain religious and philosophical concepts that challenge our understanding of ancient Egyptian thought. Today's technology is democratizing access to Egyptian texts in ways that would have amazed Champollion. High-resolution images of hieroglyphic texts are available online, allowing scholars worldwide to participate in ongoing decipherment efforts. Computer programs are being developed to assist in translating hieroglyphic texts, potentially accelerating discoveries. VR technology is allowing people to visit Egyptian tombs and temples, experiencing hieroglyphic inscriptions in their original context. But there's an urgent race against time. Many Egyptian monuments with hieroglyphic inscriptions are deteriorating due to pollution, tourism, and climate change. The knowledge contained in these texts could be lost forever if not documented soon. The Rosetta Stone's impact extends far beyond archaeology. Rosetta Stone has become a metaphor for any key that unlocks understanding between different cultures or languages. The stone sparked public fascination with ancient Egypt that continues today, inspiring countless students to pursue archaeology and linguistics, The famous language learning software, Rosetta Stone, took its name from this ancient artifact, recognizing its role in bridging communication barriers. Every year, new hieroglyphic texts are discovered and translated, adding to our understanding of ancient Egypt. Recent discoveries include administrative records that reveal how the pyramid builders were organized and paid personal letters that show the daily lives of ordinary Egyptian scientific texts that demonstrate advanced understanding of chemistry and physics literary works that rival any ancient civilization's cultural achievements with new archaeological techniques and technologies. We're likely to discover more hieroglyphic texts that could rival the Rosetta Stone's importance. Satellite archaeology is identifying previously unknown sites, while ground-penetrating radar is revealing hidden chambers in known monuments. The Rosetta Stone represents one of humanity's greatest intellectual achievements, the resurrection of a lost civilization through pure determination, genius, and sacrifice. But this story is about more than just cracking an ancient code. It's about the power of knowledge, the politics of cultural heritage, and the ongoing human quest to understand our past. That fragment of black granodiorite, discovered by a French soldier in 1799, has taught us that lost knowledge can be recovered through perseverance and brilliant thinking, that ancient civilizations were far more sophisticated than we often assume, that controlling access to historical discoveries is a form of power, that international politics and archaeology are deeply intertwined, that individual obsession and sacrifice can benefit all of humanity today. As we face new challenges in preserving and interpreting human heritage, the story of the Rosetta Stone remains incredibly relevant. It reminds us that historical artifacts belong to all humanity, not just the nations that house them. Transparency in scholarship is essential for advancing human knowledge. Ancient wisdom can inform modern solutions to contemporary problems. The past is never really past. It continues to shape our present and future. Jean-François Champollion died at 41, his health destroyed by his obsessive quest to unlock Egyptian secrets. But his sacrifice gave voice to 3 millennia of human achievement. Every time someone reads a hieroglyphic inscription, visits an Egyptian museum display, or marvels at pyramid engineering, they're benefiting from his dedication. The Rosetta Stone sits today in the British Museum, viewed by millions of visitors annually. It remains one of the most famous artifacts in human history, a testament to the power of persistence and the universal human desire to communicate across time. If this journey through archaeological mystery and international intrigue fascinated you, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and have that notification bell activated. We explore history's greatest mysteries, hidden conspiracies, and the secrets that shaped our world. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the Rosetta Stone should be returned to Egypt, or should it remain accessible to global audiences in London? What other lost languages or civilizations would you like to see us explore? And which part of Champollion's story impressed you most? His genius, his sacrifice, or his ultimate triumph? If you learned something new today about this incredible artifact and the people who unlocked its secrets, hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who are passionate about uncovering history's hidden truths. And if you're hungry for more stories about archaeological discoveries, ancient mysteries, and the brilliant minds who solved humanity's greatest puzzles, check out our playlist on ancient civilizations. There are hours of content that will completely change how you see the ancient world. The next time you see Egyptian hieroglyphs in a museum, in a movie, or in a textbook, remember that you're looking at a language that was completely silent for over 1,400 years. Every symbol you can now understand represents Champollion's lifetime of sacrifice and the international drama that surrounded the world's most famous piece of rock. The Rosetta Stone proved that the past never stays buried forever. The question is, what other lost secrets are waiting to be discovered? What other voices from history are waiting to speak again? Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, The greatest discoveries often come from the most unexpected places.